So yesterday, the news came out that Sophie Cunningham is out for the season. The hit that she took on her knee from Brie Hartley tore her MCL, and she'll be out for the season. It's like she said, that's probably the best case scenario. We all pretty much knew when we saw the hit that something was probably torn there. Possibly an ACL. Luckily, it wasn't that. As they had the MRI and news wasn't exactly forthcoming, which is an issue with the WNBA as far as because I don't think even they ever officially said that there's a MCL injury. They just said she's out for the season. We're pretty sure it wasn't an ACL there. There's a little bit of time there when there was no announcement being made as to whether or not she's coming back. And I think we all kind of got some hope up that she could come back at some point, but I think deep down we all knew. So it's tough to see. Like I said, the situation I've talked about in depth. But Sophie's podcast came out, and either yesterday or maybe it was released this morning. I don't know. I just now watched it. Well, I watched the first 20 minutes of it. After about 20 minutes, she started asking the guy on the podcast, I don't even know his name, about, I guess, some show he's on. I guess he's on some reality show or building show, home, something or another. I kind of turned it off. I don't have anything against the guy. He seems like a cool dude. But watching him and listening to him kind of irritates the crap out of me. So I'm just going to be honest with that. Like I said, it's nothing personal. It's just not exactly what I want to be listening to. So, like I said, I wish him the best of luck. I really do. But I had a few takeaways from what she did talk about. Because, first of all, just complete class on her part. She said, her spirits are very high despite this. She says she's very happy to be on this Fever team. She said this really rekindled her love for basketball, which she kind of threw in there, and I'm like, wow, what does that say about the Phoenix Mercury? She was been on that team for like she was on that team for like 6 or 7 years. This is either her seventh or eighth year in the league, and the first seven were on Phoenix. And Diana Taurasi alert, but I know she, I know she, for her to say that, and I know she kind of had a little bit to say about them. I mean, she kind of alluded to it with the Mercury being drama, especially some of the newer additions. But it kind of makes you wonder what's actually going on out there with the Phoenix Mercury, because for her to just come out and say that, she's been very honest in these, and that's very refreshing to hear. Like I said, especially in real time. You hear about stuff like this. After they've retired, they're like, yeah, my love for the game wasn't what it was when you could see them in real time. They could see their love wasn't all that great. So, but the one thing, the biggest takeaway I took from that, other than her being a class act, is she covered for Bria Hartley. Apparently, she said her and Brie are friends. So I don't know how much of friends they are. If it's just a case where they know each other, or something like that. But she said she doesn't think it was on purpose. She felt like it was a basketball play. She said the picture for smiling's out there. And she said Sophie said it's not a ha ha smile. It's a smile. But I think it's just a case where she's not only just covering for Brie Hartley. I think she's covering for the WNBA when she says that. I think it's kind of like a lot of stuff Caitlin Clark's done. Like not refusing to call out Kennedy Carter for what she did last year, and a lot of the things she did. Because I mean, this whole situation is a horrible look for the WNBA, and what's been 2 years of horrible looks, and longer than that. But it's just we've really been paying attention the last 2 years. We'll hear about some stuff leaking out here and there from them, but in the past before Caitlin got there. But now that we're having a chance to actually look at it, we're seeing just what a just how badly this league, how bad a shape this league really is in, as far as the people involved, and just how broken they are. And that's why somebody like Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark are such a breath of fresh air. For them to just have good attitudes and covering for it. Leah Boston's another one. She really is good for the WNBA. Her personality, she has a very sweet personality. Um, Probably hurts her on the court a little bit. She probably needs to be a little meaner on the court, but for her to be a good person, I guess that's worth it in the end. Sometimes it's frustrating as a Fever fan. I'm like, gosh, Aaliyah, you're 6'5". Just do something. But I get it. I get it. I really do. But that was big. Because like I said, I think to me, Sophie Cunningham is definitely covering. Like I said, not even just for Brie, but just for the WNBA as a whole. Because they're getting destroyed. I mean, there's nothing about that did not look unintentional. It looked completely intentional to me. And like I said, it's not a case where I'm saying that Sophie's intentionally lying just to lie. I think it's one of those things a lot of us do sometimes. Sometimes you just have to cover for not only yourself but for everybody around you. Like if you're at work and one of your coworkers does something to or says something to a customer that is really not a good thing to say because they're having a bad day. You kind of go there and you say, they didn't mean for it to come out like that. When they're having a shit day and they absolutely meant for it to come out like that, you say that's okay. But you're covering for your place of work and you're covering to try to prevent future drama. And I feel like that's what Sophie Cunningham's doing when she says it's not Brie Hartley's fault. And I give Sophie a ton of credit for that. I really do. I actually respect her more for that. For trying to take care of her league because I mean she knows it. She loves she loves being on the Indiana Fever. She loves playing basketball. She wants to play professionally in America, and the WNBA is her place, and she knows the league's taking beatings. I mean, and she even mentioned she's 3 for 3 now in her first 3 podcasts. She's gotten fined every single time for talking about the officiating. The last podcast, she talked about something we've all seen, which is Paige Becker's special whistle. I mean, she's right, and it's a shame for Paige because that's just going to make us dislike her, which she doesn't need it. It's kind of like the Patrick Mahomes effect. Patrick Mahomes doesn't need a special whistle. He's good enough. But when the refs are giving him, all these stupid calls, it just makes us want to see them fail. It makes us want to see the Chiefs fail, which, they don't deserve that. I mean, just for somebody like him, just call it. And for Paige, I mean, like I said, she's no Caitlin Clark, but I mean, she's going to be a star. Why is it just call it straight up and down for her? This league's just so desperate to have any kind of star power outside of Caitlin, but they also don't want to do the things to protect people like Caitlin. But they'll protect Paige. They'll protect the people that, quite frankly, the league could do better if they weren't in the league. People like Asia Wilson. Like I said, I don't want to see them get hurt, but I mean, definitely call it straight up and down for them. Brianna Stewart, they they go to the free throw line umpteen million times a game, and the league if you're them just suddenly quit playing, nobody would notice. I'm just gonna say it. I mean that's just a fact. Um, so yeah, but yeah, it's tough news. I didn't even make a reaction video. I'm just like I'm not even I'm not even gonna talk about it just because everybody else is, and pretty much knew it was gonna happen. But like I said, I found this podcast interesting. I found her comments interesting, and it's just tough to see that they're having to people like her and Caitlin are having to cover for this league like this. I mean, like I said, I give them a lot of credit for doing that and having the maturity to do it. But it's just like I said, the league's just full of broken people. Again, I go back to Diana Taurasi and the documentary, some of the things she was saying. She's talking about you get home from playing and being gone for a while, and you look at your parents, you're like, wow, they're getting older. Well, does she think she's the only person in the world that's experiencing that? I think she's about a year or 2 or 3 older than me, something like that. And I mean, my parents, mom's 70, dad's 72, and I'm very, very blessed for them to be in the health and the good health they're in. But at the same time, you still look at them and you're like, wow, they're getting old. But like I said, I'm lucky to have them around to be close to them still, and they're still in good health, can get around easily, or at least it looks easy. I'm sure it probably don't feel easy for them, but it's just the stuff we're all going through, and for her to sit there, after having accomplished it, what she's looking for, being a professional basketball player, and to complain about it like that, it just shows, there's very unhappy people in this league. Brie Hartley smiling and taking all this, doing all these dirty plays and being happy about it. It's just, you're broken inside to do that. And like I said, I hope they get the help they need. And like I said, I hope she understands that, she did something very bad and this person is actually covering for her, trying to, prevent the online horde from going after her, because she knows, we're coming with our pitchforks, because We want to see stuff like this out of the league. I don't really see the talent there. A lot of the other situations with her were like, pulling on Angel Reese's ponytails. That's because she wasn't going to out rebound and she knew it. The second situation in Chicago with Rebecca Allen. Rebecca beat her to the rebounding position, and she was just mad about that, so she threw her to the ground, started scratching her, and then ran like a little bitch when Errol Atkins showed up and said, "Okay, you want to do something about this?" And she hid behind the official. That's crazy. And obviously, body checking. I think it was Skylar Diggins, if I'm not mistaken, like just past half court because she's getting lit up by her. I mean, that's just Again, I give Sophie a lot of credit for kind of covering for her and just covering for the league as a whole. But this league they have to grow up. They have to have more of a oversight committee that looks at these things. And this could have been prevented a long time ago. After the first situation, she should have been fined and suspended for a couple games. If you're gonna pull on somebody's ponytail after the Rebecca Allen thing, she should have been suspended for the rest of the year. Would have stopped that right there, and this never would have happened. I compare the WNBA; they're like that little used car dealership that just that little bitty building. You go in their office, and it's like just like the size of a cubicle with like the plywood walls and the green screen computer from the early 1990s, and you're still running on the floppy disk and DOS. Some of you probably have no idea what I just talked about, but that's okay. It's a thing. It happened. And then suddenly, starting in 2014, they're selling brand new Ferraris as well. And you're going there to buy a Ferrari. If you're somebody who has that kind of money, which Lord knows I don't, but if you go there to try to buy a brand new Ferrari instead of having high tech equipment to sell it to you and see your credit and all that, you're having to go back in this little office. That's what we feel like as WNBA fans. It's like, why are we? This isn't bargain basement stuff we're trying to watch. We're trying to watch, world class athletes like Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston and Sophie Cunningham and Kelsey Mitchell for sure. She's an amazing athlete, and we're, having to buy this product in these little crummy office areas. So that's the best comparison I can think of, to be honest with you. So kudos to Sophie Cunningham for having a great attitude about this and not playing the victim, not playing woe is me, and even covering for the person that did this to her, because she has to know that was done intentionally. I mean, you can kind of tell this because she kind of said it in a way that she kind of wants to, It's like, yeah, I don't think so, and then, just get on to talking about other stuff. But I give her a lot of credit, like I give Caitlin Clark a lot of credit for, just trying to cover for this league, hoping they'll get into place. Because, for them, that's their league. And for the rest of us, it's the league we have to watch. We don't like the league. We like them. And we want to see this league improve. And, I mean, they've been given every opportunity. I mean, now in the stars we like, covering for them, I don't think they understand. And plus, I want to see the NBA get involved and say, look, call, Kathy Engelbert on the carpet. Call whoever's in charge of the officiating on the carpet and say, look, how did it get to this point? Why is Brie Hartley still? Why was she not suspended for the year before this even happened? Why are people like J.C. Sheldon starters in this league? So kudos to her. This league needs help. I mean, they have people that we want to watch and are getting emotionally invested in, and they're just screwing it up all over the place. So WNBA got to do better. Get well, Sophie. Hope your surgery goes well, and I look forward to hopefully watching you and Caitlin play a full season next year, and along with Aaliyah and Kelsey, and really going for it. But and Lexi, we just league has to do better. I mean, they're trying their best. People are trying their best to put their best foot forward for them, the people who actually want to see, and they're still screwing up. So hopefully they'll do better. After 2 years of watching this, I kind of doubt they will. So we'll see. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to y'all later.